You know what one of the loneliest feelings in the world is? It's not being alone. It's being surrounded by people who look at your dreams and see delusion. It's watching their eyes glaze over when you talk about what matters most to you. It's the subtle change in tone when they say, "That's interesting," but what they really mean is, "That's impossible." Maybe it's your family who thinks you should get a real job. Maybe it's your friends who've stopped asking about your project because they think it's going nowhere. Maybe it's the investors who rejected you, the publishers who sent form letters, the coaches who cut you from the team, or the teachers who told you to lower your expectations. When nobody believes in you, it feels like you're trying to convince the world that the sky is blue while everyone insists it's green. And the worst part, you start to wonder if maybe they're right, and you're the one who's been seeing things wrong all along. But here's what I want to talk about today. Because if you're in this position right now, what you do next will determine everything. Let me start by acknowledging something that most motivational content won't tell you. Their disbelief hurts. And it's supposed to. We're wired as social creatures. For most of human history, being rejected by the tribe meant death. So when people don't believe in us, when they dismiss our dreams or question our judgment, it triggers something primal in our brains. That pain you feel isn't weakness. It's biology. Scientists have actually studied this. When people experience social rejection, the same parts of the brain light up as when they experience physical pain. Your brain literally processes, "Nobody believes in me," the same way it processes, "I've been injured." So if this is devastating you right now, that's not because you're too sensitive or not tough enough. It's because you're human. But here's the critical distinction that changes everything. Just because the pain is real doesn't mean the message is true. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a legitimate threat and a false alarm. When your uncle tells you to give up on your business idea and get a job at the post office, your body reacts as if a predator just appeared. But your uncle isn't a predator, and his opinion isn't a fact about reality. It's just his opinion, shaped by his experiences, his fears, his limitations, and his worldview. The people who don't believe in you aren't giving you information about your potential. They're giving you information about their vision. And most people have incredibly limited vision. Before we talk about what to do, let's talk about why this happens, because understanding this will free you from taking it personally. First, most people don't believe in themselves. This is fundamental. Someone who has given up on their own dreams cannot hold space for yours. When they see you reaching for something extraordinary, it forces them to confront their own resignation. That's uncomfortable. So instead of dealing with that discomfort, they try to pull you back down to their level. It's not malicious. It's self-protection. Your belief threatens their excuses. Second, people can only see possibilities that fit within their paradigm. Your parents might be intelligent, loving people who genuinely want the best for you, but if they've spent 40 years in traditional employment, they literally cannot envision a path that doesn't involve a steady paycheck and benefits. It's not stubbornness. It's that their brain has been wired by their experiences. They're looking at your future through the lens of their past, and that lens has blind spots the size of continents. Third, failure is more common than success, and they're playing the odds. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people who chase big dreams don't achieve them. Most businesses fail. Most artists don't make it. Most athletes don't go pro. So when someone looks at your dreams skeptically, they're actually being statistically rational. The problem is that statistics tell you what happens to most people, not what happens to you specifically. You're not a statistic. You're an individual case, and individual cases are where outliers live. Fourth, projecting doubt is easier than taking responsibility. When people tell you that you can't do something, they're making a claim about reality that requires no effort from them. But if they encouraged you and you failed, they might feel partially responsible. they might feel like they gave you false hope. So skepticism becomes a defensive posture. They're protecting themselves from the vulnerability of hope. And fifth, sometimes they're actually right to be concerned, but wrong about the conclusion. Maybe your plan does have holes. Maybe you are being naive about certain aspects. The people who care about you can see those vulnerabilities, and their doubt comes from genuine concern. The mistake they make is thinking that, because the first version of your plan has problems, the dream itself is impossible. They're confusing a flawed strategy with a flawed vision. Now, when you're facing disbelief, there are 3 paths you can take, and most people take the most dangerous one. The first path is to give up. You internalize the doubt, you accept their verdict, and you abandon your dream. Some people reading this have already taken that path, with dreams they once had, and there's a particular kind of sadness to it, because you'll never know what was on the other side of persistence. The third path is what we're going to talk about, transforming their doubt into fuel. But before we get there, let's talk about the second path, because it's where most people get stuck. The second path is trying to convince them. You argue, you explain, you show them research, examples of others who succeeded, projections and plans and evidence, and you burn enormous amounts of energy trying to convert skeptics into believers. This is exhausting for a simple reason. You're fighting a battle you cannot win. You cannot logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. Their disbelief isn't based on careful analysis that can be overturned with better data. It's based on fear, conditioning, and limited imagination. You could have a business plan written by Warren Buffett, and your dad would still think you should keep your accounting job. Because this isn't about your plan. It's about his worldview. Seeking validation from people who are fundamentally unable to give it is like trying to get water from a stone. It's not that the stone is being difficult. It's that it's a stone. It doesn't have water to give. Every hour you spend trying to convince someone who doesn't believe in you is an hour stolen from the work that would make belief irrelevant. This is the trap. While you're arguing with your friends about whether your podcast could ever amount to anything, someone else is recording their 100th episode and building an audience. So here's the first thing you do when nobody believes in you. You radically accept that their belief is not required. This sounds simple, but it's profound. You need to metabolize at a deep level that there is no cosmic law that says people must believe in you before you can succeed. In fact, some of the greatest achievements in history happened specifically because someone refused to accept the consensus opinion about what was possible. The Wright brothers were 2 bicycle mechanics that the scientific establishment thought were wasting their time. Samuel Langley, who was funded by the government and the Smithsonian Institution, was supposed to be the one to achieve powered flight. The Wright brothers were the underdogs nobody took seriously, and they flew. J.K. Rowling was a single mother on welfare who was rejected by 12 publishers. 12 groups of professional experts whose job was literally to identify successful books told her no, and she created one of the most successful literary franchises in history. Howard Schultz tried to convince the original owners of Starbucks to expand their coffee shop concept. They said no. He tried to get investors. He was rejected 242 times. 242 people, many of them professional investors, told him his idea wouldn't work. Today, there are over 30,000 Starbucks locations. Do you see the pattern? The disbelief wasn't an obstacle to their success. It was completely irrelevant to their success. Now, I'm not telling you this so you can feel inspired by these stories and then do nothing. I'm telling you this so you understand something crucial. What made these people different wasn't that they were smarter or more talented than everyone else. It's that they had an internal compass that was stronger than external opinion. They had conviction, not confidence. Confidence is, I believe this will work. Conviction is, I'm committed to finding out. Confidence can be shaken by doubt. Conviction uses doubt as information, but not as a stop sign. When nobody believes in you, you need to shift from seeking belief to cultivating conviction. And here's how you do that. Step 1. Get clear on your why. Not the superficial why, the deep one. Why does this matter to you? And I mean really matter, in a way that touches something essential about who you are or what you think your life should be about. If your dream is just about making money or impressing people, it won't survive sustained doubt. Those motivations are too fragile. But if your dream is connected to something deeper, a problem you're meant to solve, an art you're meant to create, a person you're meant to become, then it has roots that go below the surface level where criticism lives. Write this down, not in your head, on paper. I'm pursuing this because... And keep going until you get to something that makes you feel something. That's your anchor. Step 2. Separate identity from outcome. This is subtle but crucial. Your worth as a person cannot be dependent on whether this particular dream succeeds. If it is, you're building a house on sand. You need to be the kind of person who can say, I believe this is worth pursuing, and if I'm wrong, I'll learn and try something else, and I'll still be fine. This might seem counterintuitive. Isn't conviction supposed to be all in? Yes, but there's a difference between being all in on your effort and making your entire self-worth dependent on one outcome. The first is powerful. The second is fragile. Step 3. Focus on what you can control. You cannot control whether people believe in you. You cannot control whether you succeed, but you can control whether you show up today and do the work. You can control whether you learn from feedback. You can control whether you iterate and improve. Make a list of controllable actions. Things like, research 3 successful people in my field. Practice my skill for 1 hour. Reach out to 1 potential mentor. Create 1 piece of work. These are your controllables. Pour your energy into these. Let the uncontrollables, like other people's opinions, fade into background noise. Step 4. Build evidence for yourself. The people around you don't believe in you because they don't have evidence. Fair enough. You need to create evidence for yourself. Not for them. For you. Set small goals that you can definitely achieve. Hit them. Then set slightly bigger ones. You're not trying to prove anything to anyone else yet. You're building a personal track record that you can look at when doubt creeps in. Every small win is a data point that says, I can do hard things. I can follow through. I can learn. I can grow. This is how you develop earned confidence, which is infinitely more powerful than borrowed belief. Now, let's get tactical. Here are the specific things you need to do when nobody believes in you. 1. Curate your inputs ruthlessly. You need to go on an information diet. If you're watching videos or reading content, or spending time with people who reinforce the idea that your dream is impossible, stop. Immediately. Your brain is incredibly plastic, and it will shape itself around the messages it receives most frequently. This doesn't mean you surround yourself with toxic positivity or people who blow smoke. It means you deliberately seek out stories, content, and people that expand your sense of what's possible. Biographies of people who succeeded against odds. Podcasts where people discuss overcoming obstacles. Communities of people pursuing similar paths. You're not doing this to brainwash yourself. You're doing it to counterbalance the negativity you're already receiving. You're trying to create equilibrium. 2. Find your 1%. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't even need most people to believe in you. You need maybe 1 to 3 people who get it. These are your allies. They're probably not your family or your childhood friends, unless you're very lucky. They're people you seek out intentionally. Look for people who are a few steps ahead of you on a similar path. Look for online communities of people pursuing similar goals. Look for that one person at work who seems to think differently. When you find these people, invest in those relationships. Share your progress with them. Ask for their input. Let them be your reality check when the doubt gets overwhelming. These people are worth their weight in gold because they prove that you're not crazy. They're evidence that your dream exists in someone else's reality, not just yours. 3. Use doubt as diagnostic feedback. Here's a reframe that's incredibly powerful. When someone expresses doubt, get curious instead of defensive. That's interesting. What specifically makes you think that won't work? Not in a sarcastic way. Genuinely curious. Sometimes, buried in their skepticism is actually useful information. Maybe they're identifying a real risk you hadn't considered. Maybe they're highlighting a weakness in your plan. You can extract that useful information without accepting their conclusion that you should give up. Think of doubters as stress testers. They're applying pressure to your idea. The goal isn't to have an idea that nobody can poke holes in. That doesn't exist. The goal is to identify the holes, patch them, and keep moving forward. 4. Create small public commitments. This is counterintuitive, but bear with me. One reason it's hard to persist when nobody believes in you is that your effort is invisible. You're working in private, getting no reinforcement, and it's easy to quit because there's no accountability. So create tiny bits of accountability. Tell one trusted person what you're going to do this week. Post about your progress on a small platform. Join an accountability group. The commitment doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real enough that quitting has a small social cost. This gives you a reason to keep going even when your motivation dips, which it will, because motivation is unreliable. Discipline plus micro-accountability is what carries you through the valleys. 5. Celebrate private victories. Nobody's going to throw you a parade for the small steps you're taking. So you need to become your own cheerleader. This isn't about being delusional. It's about acknowledging progress. Did you work on your project 3 days this week when you wanted to quit? That's worth acknowledging. Did you finish a difficult chapter, or complete a prototype, or have a hard conversation? Mark it. Journal about it. Tell your 1% people. Give yourself permission to feel good about forward movement, even when the destination is still far away. This trains your brain to associate effort with reward, which makes it easier to keep putting in effort. Here's what most people don't tell you about pursuing something when nobody believes in you. It's not a sprint. It's not even a marathon. It's a pilgrimage, and pilgrimages are measured in years, not months. You need to settle into this for the long haul. That doesn't mean it will definitely take forever. Some people get lucky breaks quickly, but you can't count on that. And if you're doing this because you think you'll prove everyone wrong in 6 months, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. The question you need to ask yourself is, am I willing to do this, even if it takes 5 years, 10 years, even if I never get external validation? Because that's the level of commitment required. This is actually freeing once you accept it. You stop living in this frantic state of needing quick results to justify your choice. You stop checking constantly to see if you've made it yet. You just put your head down and do the work day after day, because the work itself becomes the point. There's a concept in Zen Buddhism called chopping wood, carrying water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The point is that the fundamental work doesn't change. What changes is your relationship to it. When nobody believes in you, you need to find a way to love the process independent of the outcome. Not because the outcome doesn't matter, but because you'll be living in the process for a long time, and if you hate every moment of it, you'll quit. Find the parts you enjoy, the research, the practice, the creation, the problem-solving, the learning. Let those be enough, most days. And on the days when they're not enough, you rely on discipline and micro-accountability to carry you through. Now, here's what happens if you actually do this. If you ignore the doubt, focus on your controllables, build evidence for yourself, find your people, and commit to the long game. One of two things will happen. Either you'll succeed in the way you originally envisioned, or you'll succeed in a different way. And this is important. Both of those are success. Maybe you set out to build a tech startup, and you end up building a consulting business instead. Maybe you dreamed of being a novelist, and you become a successful screenwriter. Maybe you wanted to be a professional athlete, and you become a coach who shapes dozens of athletes. These aren't failures. They're evolutions. The journey changes you. It teaches you things. It opens doors you didn't know existed. And if you're paying attention and staying flexible, you'll recognize opportunities that are better than your original plan. But even if you get exactly what you wanted, here's what's strange. The moment when people start believing in you won't feel the way you imagined. You thought it would feel like vindication, like, I told you so, and maybe there's a flash of that. But mostly what you'll feel is quiet certainty, because by the time you succeed, their belief has become irrelevant. You've internalized your own belief so deeply that external validation is just noise. Nice noise, maybe, but noise. You'll realize that you didn't need them to believe in you. You just needed you to believe in you. And you spent months or years proving that to yourself through action. That's the secret nobody tells you. The journey of succeeding when nobody believes in you isn't really about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. To yourself. So if you're watching this, and you're in that place right now, where the people around you don't see what you see, where your dream feels lonely, where you're wondering if you're crazy for holding on, here's what I want you to know. You're not crazy. Or maybe you are, but you're the good kind of crazy. The kind that changes things. The kind that builds things that didn't exist. The kind that finds paths where everyone else sees walls. History is made by people who were dismissed, by people who were told no, by people who were advised to be realistic, to settle, to accept limits. Every single innovation, every breakthrough, every work of art that matters started with someone believing in something that nobody else could see yet. That's not a bug. That's a feature. The doubt you're experiencing isn't a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that you're attempting something outside the ordinary, and the ordinary, by definition, is crowded. If everyone believed in your dream, it wouldn't be your dream. It would be the obvious path, and someone else would already be walking it. So when nobody believes in you, do this. Believe in yourself with such intensity that their doubt becomes irrelevant. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're committed. You're clear. You're willing to be wrong, but you're not willing to quit without finding out. Do the work. Trust the process. Stay patient with yourself. Celebrate the small wins. Find your people. Learn from the doubt without being crushed by it. And give yourself permission to take as long as it takes. Because here's the truth. 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. The question is whether you're going to be somewhere you chose, having given your dream your best shot, or somewhere you settled for, having let other people's doubt make your decisions. Both futures involve uncertainty. Both involve risk. But only one involves regret. So choose the uncertainty that excites you, not the uncertainty that comes from wondering what if. And when you're deep in the work, when it's hard, when you're tired, when the doubt is loud and the progress is invisible, remember this. Every person who ever did anything worth doing walked this same lonely road. You're not alone in feeling alone. You're in the company of every pioneer, every creator, every person who decided that their vision mattered more than the consensus. That's the path. It's not easy, but it's yours. And nobody needs to believe in it, but you. Now get back to work. Your future self is waiting.